Sumerian tablets are probably one of the oldest form of written record that we have. They've been translated, and they tell exciting stories about how gods intermingled with human beings and actually had a hand in the creation of human beings.
The internet is currently flooded with a deeply unsettling claim that a highly advanced artificial intelligence was fed the oldest, most cryptic cuneiform tablets in human history, and what it decoded has terrified researchers. Ominous viral videos allege the machine bypassed centuries of academic censorship to uncover a primordial operating system dictating human behavior and hidden warnings of a looming global apocalypse. Is humanity actually facing a suppressed cosmic reality, or is this digital panic the result of a rogue algorithm breaking down entirely? The truth behind this computational breakthrough rewrites everything we know about the ancient world. The actual AI translation breakthrough. People assume that feeding the oldest, most cryptic texts in human history into a supercomputer will immediately spit out apocalyptic prophecies or alien blueprints. The internet loves a good conspiracy, and algorithms have recently been flooded with claims about commercial chatbots decoding suppressed ancient secrets. But the truth of what actually happened in 2023 is far more profound than any science fiction story, and it completely rewrites how we uncover human history. Think about the sheer scale of ancient Mesopotamia for a second. Over the last 2 centuries, archaeologists have pulled more than 500,000 cuneiform tablets out of the sands of the Middle East. 500,000 physical records of the oldest civilizations on Earth are sitting right now in the climate-controlled archives of museums around the world, completely silent. The reason for this silence is the severe human resource deficit in the field of Assyriology. There are only a few hundred scholars alive today who possess the grueling, highly specialized skills required to accurately read Akkadian and Sumerian cuneiform. A single fractured tablet can take days or weeks for an expert to meticulously translate. The vast majority of our ancient history is locked away simply because we do not have enough human eyes to read it. This agonizing, slow pace shattered in 2023. A multidisciplinary team of researchers from Tel Aviv University and Ariel University did what many thought was computationally impossible. They built a highly specialized neuro-machine translation model designed specifically to read Akkadian cuneiform and translate it directly into English. This was not some weekend tech experiment. The pioneering findings, spearheaded by computer scientist Guy Guthers and Assyriologist Dr. Shay Gordon, were rigorous enough to be published in the peer-reviewed journal PNAS Nexus. Let us get one crucial fact straight right now. Despite the viral rumors and the clickbait thumbnails flooding your feed, this academic milestone has absolutely nothing to do with Elon Musk, XAI, or the GROK AI platform. The bespoke model built by the Israeli team is a completely independent, purpose-built academic engine. It was not scraped from internet forums or designed to write witty social media posts. It was engineered from the ground up to solve one of the most demanding intellectual bottlenecks in archaeology. To prove their machine was not just guessing, the team subjected it to the ultimate linguistic stress test called the BLEU-4 metric. This is the industry-standard algorithmic tool used to measure the exact correlation between machine-generated outputs and professional human translations on a scale of 0 to 100. When processing the Latin transliteration of Akkadian, a process known as transliteration to English, the model achieved a staggering score of 37.47. In the realm of computational linguistics, hitting the high 30s for an extinct, low-resource language with limited training data is considered a massive success. It establishes a robust, academically viable baseline. The researchers discovered the engine operates with maximum efficiency when chewing through short to medium sentences containing 118 or fewer characters. It performs best on highly structured formulaic texts like royal decrees and administrative tallies, where repetitive grammatical syntax allows the neural network to map ancient glyphs directly to English targets. The goal here is not to replace human experts. The objective is to deploy this technology as a high-speed digital assistant capable of generating rapid, first-pass translations. By automating the initial, painstaking stages of deciphering, scholars can finally begin to process the massive backlog of 500,000 untranslated records. We are looking at the digital resurrection of an entire civilization, happening piece by piece, character by character. The disturbing viral trend and misconceptions. Think about the sheer absurdity of the modern internet for a second. A team of dedicated academics achieves a monumental leap in computational linguistics, solving a translation bottleneck that has frustrated archaeologists for over a century. You would probably assume the world might celebrate this rigorous, peer-reviewed science. Instead, the academic success of the Israeli research team was instantly swallowed whole by a sensationalized hype machine. Within days, platforms like TikTok and YouTube were completely flooded with ominous background music and dramatic narrations, claiming that a modern supercomputer had just unlocked the dark secrets of the universe. The digital world simply could not handle the mundane reality of legitimate academic success. Content creators realized that peer-reviewed linguistics does not generate rapid ad revenue, so they weaponized the discovery. To maximize algorithmic visibility, these digital marketers fabricated a massive lie. They forcefully connected the university-led research to highly visible consumer tech brands, specifically flooding the internet with videos that falsely attributed the translation of these ancient clay tablets to XAI and their GROK AI chatbot. By stuffing trending tech terms into their metadata, these accounts successfully manipulated search engine algorithms and hijacked legitimate academic news to fuel speculative entertainment channels. Forensic media experts looking into this trend notice something even more unsettling about the videos themselves. Many of these channels were actively deploying sophisticated AI-generated synthetic personas and cloned voices. These digital phantoms recited stolen, dramatized scripts, easily bypassing standard content verification filters to build massive online audiences entirely out of thin air. The claims propagated by this synthetic viral machine are highly imaginative, deliberately fear-mongering, and completely baseless. These cloned narrators assert that the artificial intelligence uncovered deeply unsettling truths and hidden protocols buried within the ancient clay. They allege the software translated hidden warnings of a looming global apocalypse and uncovered undeniable evidence of ancient genetic engineering. Some of the most viral videos even claim the machine identified a primordial operating system that secretly dictates all human behavior. The clickbait hysteria did not stop at Mesopotamia either. Other creators stretched the fabrication even further across the archaeological world, asserting the software exposed deliberate scars and brutal censorship in the Dead Sea Scrolls. They spun a massive conspiracy suggesting that foundational religious texts are nothing but heavily edited fabrications, masking a lost, apocalyptic history. We need to aggressively dismantle this narrative of existential dread and look at the undeniable hard truth. The reality of this translation technology is far more grounded, yet historically profound in a completely different way. The neural machine translation model did not discover any anomalous data. It did not find hidden alien codes, secret histories, or physical anomalies locked inside the clay. Instead, it simply translated well-known, historically documented texts that have been publicly available to academic scholars for generations. The absolute breakthrough here lies not in the shocking content of the translations, but entirely in the terrifying speed of the computational processing. This custom-built artificial intelligence accomplished in a fraction of a second what normally requires days of meticulous, eye-straining effort by a human expert. It brought zero new theological revelations to light, but it proved that we finally have the digital power to process the vast backlog of human history faster than anyone ever thought possible. The controversial Enuma Elish and Atrahasis epics. To understand what this neural network was actually learning to read, we have to travel far beyond the confines of modern digital servers. We need to go back to the Old Babylonian period, roughly between 2000 and 1600 BCE. Long before the Book of Genesis was even a conceptual framework in the ancient Near East, the people of Mesopotamia laid down the absolute cosmological bedrock of the ancient world. The AI researchers fed the machine the most famous theological literature of the region, primarily the Enuma Elish and the Epic of Atrahasis. These epics are not just primitive stories, they are deeply layered frameworks explaining the exact nature of the cosmic order. Think about the sheer age of these documents for a second. The machine was actively crunching texts that predate the Hebrew Bible by more than 1,000 years, processing the oldest known written accounts of human creation and the Great Flood. The narrative of the Epic of Atrahasis that the AI processed is fascinating, and it is entirely rooted in ancient politics and labor disputes. According to the original text, the universe was strictly divided by a harsh class system. The senior deities, massive figures like Enlil, Anu, and Enki, held all the power, while the junior deities, known as the Igigi, were treated as an exploited workforce. The senior gods forced the Igigi to perform backbreaking agricultural labor, specifically the monumental excavation of the Tigris and Euphrates river canals. Eventually, the Igigi reached an absolute breaking point. Tired of this relentless, exhausting toil, they dropped their tools and staged a full-blown political rebellion, aggressively surrounding the palace of the chief god Enlil. The entire cosmic order was on the brink of total collapse simply due to a divine labor strike. To defuse this crisis, the god Enki proposed a brilliant, albeit dark, compromise. He suggested the creation of an entirely new biological workforce, designed specifically to inherit the physical labor of the gods so the Igigi could rest. This new species was humanity. The physical mechanics of this ancient creation event are exactly where the story takes a highly specific turn. The birth goddess Nintu was tasked with the creation process, but she did not just summon humans out of thin air. Instead, the assembly of gods sacrificed a rebel deity named Geshtu-e, a being described specifically as a god who possessed high intelligence. Nintu then meticulously mixed ordinary earth clay with the physical flesh and blood of this sacrificed god to mold the first human beings. This exact detail is where modern sensationalist content creators completely lose their grip on reality. You will see endless viral videos claiming this ancient description of mixing blood and clay is literal, historical proof of extraterrestrial genetic engineering happening in an ancient laboratory. We need to aggressively dismantle that claim right now. The ancient Mesopotamians were not documenting literal gene splicing. They were constructing a profound, incredibly brilliant philosophical metaphor. The original Sumerian and Akkadian texts rely on complex linguistic wordplay that completely flies over the heads of pseudo-archaeologists. The ancient words for divine spirit, itemu, human reason, temu, and divine blood, damu, are intricately connected in the native language. This poetic framework was specifically designed to explain a fundamental human condition. It taught that while our physical bodies belong to the earth and the clay, our human minds possess a literal spark of divine intellect through the blood of a god. It is a beautiful theological explanation of human consciousness, entirely stripped of its cultural context by modern clickbait marketers looking for aliens where there is only brilliant ancient poetry. the Anunnaki, and ancient astronaut controversies. You cannot talk about the translation of Sumerian tablets without eventually confronting the massive cultural shadow of the Anunnaki. In authentic Mesopotamian religion and mythology, these figures constituted the traditional, highly revered pantheon of gods. The Anunnaki represented elemental cosmic forces, grand atmospheric phenomena, and local municipal patrons worshipped in massive temple complexes like the Ikur in Nippur. They formed the absolute theological framework through which ancient societies interpreted the terrifying forces of the natural world. But if you spend any amount of time exploring the fringes of the internet, you are handed a completely different narrative. You are told these beings were not gods of storm and earth, but rather an advanced race of extraterrestrial biological entities who arrived on Earth in spaceships. This entire modern mythology traces directly back to 1976 and a writer named Zecharia Sitchin. Sitchin published a book titled The 12th Planet, which completely popularized a highly controversial and thoroughly debunked alternate history. Sitchin presented a wildly imaginative narrative claiming the Anunnaki hailed from a hypothetical, undiscovered rogue planet named Nibiru. According to this theory, these aliens arrived on Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago with a very specific mission. They needed to mine gold to repair their own failing planetary atmosphere, and they subsequently engineered Homo sapiens as a biological slave species by splicing alien DNA with that of Homo erectus. Sitchin sold millions of copies of this narrative, single-handedly forming the foundation of the modern ancient astronaut subculture that dominates cable television today. Think about that for a second. An entire global subculture of extraterrestrial belief relies on the linguistic translations of one man from the 1970s. But professional linguists, Assyriologists, and historians have completely discredited Sitchin for ignoring the most basic rules of Sumerian and Akkadian grammar. Academic critics, specifically Dr. Michael S. Heiser and Dr. Ronald H. Fritze, meticulously reviewed his work and demonstrated that Sitchin simply fabricated his translations out of thin air. He invented word definitions and presented highly selective, cherry-picked evidence to fit a sci-fi narrative. Let us look at the exact data points these experts used to destroy the fabrications. Sitchin famously claimed that the specific cuneiform sign known as Digger translated to the highly technical phrase "pure ones" of the blazing rockets. That sounds incredibly convincing until you realize the sign is actually just a simple, standard, determinative prefix indicating the word for deity. He took a basic grammatical marker and turned it into an interstellar spacecraft. Furthermore, Sitchin anchored his primary evidence for an advanced 12-planet solar system on a specific artifact called Cylinder Seal VA-243. He claimed the carving explicitly depicted the Sun surrounded by 11 orbiting planetary bodies. Professional Assyriologists deconstructed this artifact and proved the central symbol is not the Sun at all, but rather a standard, commonly used star symbol. The surrounding dots are simply other stars representing a constellation. The accompanying text on the seal does not detail orbital mechanics. It translates to the incredibly mundane phrase, "You are his servant," indicating a standard administrative message between a nobleman and a subordinate. This brings us directly back to the ultimate digital verification. The development and deployment of the university neural-machine translation models provided a rigorous, perfectly unbiased computational check on these ancient astronaut claims. Because the artificial intelligence was trained strictly on the standardized, peer-reviewed grammatical rules of Sumerian and Akkadian, its outputs perfectly match the mainstream academic consensus of global experts. The translation algorithms processed these exact texts and yielded completely coherent historical, economic, and mythological documents. The machine found absolutely zero evidence of extraterrestrial activity, spaceflight, or advanced genetic laboratories hiding in ancient Mesopotamia. AI hallucinations in ancient texts. You might assume that a highly advanced neural network processing ancient history operates with flawless, infallible precision. Consider the reality of what occurs when the machine mind actually breaks. When researchers force an artificial intelligence to read a shattered, burnt piece of clay missing half of its original characters, the resulting outputs cross the line from simple computational errors into something legitimately unsettling. We are dealing with the highly documented phenomenon of AI hallucinations in the realm of archaeological linguistics. Think about the harsh physical reality of these ancient artifacts for a second. Cuneiform tablets are rarely pulled from the earth in pristine condition. They have survived the violent collapse of empires, raging palace fires, and millennia of slow, grinding erosion beneath the desert sand. This extreme physical trauma leaves massive, unreadable textual gaps, known throughout academia as lacunae. When the neural machine translation model attempts to process a string of characters with severe damage, its contextual prediction mechanism completely shatters. Instead of simply failing or returning a blank error code, the network forcefully guesses the missing context. It aggressively fabricates phrases that appear grammatically correct and syntactically fluent in English but possess absolutely zero factual connection to the original ancient source text. There is one specific, deeply eerie test case that perfectly illustrates this system failure. A human scholar was analyzing a complex Akkadian legal tablet and correctly translated the text to ask why they should conduct the lawsuit before a man from Libya Ali. It is a completely logical, historically grounded legal inquiry. When the research team fed that exact same cuneiform input into the AI model, the engine completely misfired. While the machine correctly identified that Libya Ali translated to inner city, it utterly failed to grasp the interrogative structure and the legal context of the sentence. The AI locked up and confidently generated a highly redundant, meaningless loop, generating the phrase "they are in the inner city, in the inner city." The machine stripped away human history and trapped itself in a digital echo chamber. This computational breakdown is inevitable because Akkadian is categorized as a critically low-resource language. Modern translation algorithms thrive on endless oceans of data. If you ask an algorithm to translate modern Spanish or Mandarin, it draws from billions of structured sentences. The digitized corpus of ancient Mesopotamian text, however, is severely finite. The training data available to these researchers is incredibly limited, which entirely starves the artificial intelligence of the statistical depth required to handle anything beyond basic administrative lists. When the AI encounters complex poetic epics, liturgical hymns, or highly stylized literary genres, it simply lacks the mathematical reference points to comprehend the figurative language. Furthermore, the primary datasets used for training are not neatly segmented into perfectly clean sentences, which severely compounds the alignment errors. This fundamental flaw is precisely why the machine can never replace the human mind. The researchers who built this tool aggressively emphasize that this technology is not a standalone oracle. It is strictly configured as a human-in-the-loop system. The artificial intelligence serves strictly as an incredibly fast digital assistant meant to generate rough, preliminary first-pass translations of totally unexamined tablets. It tackles the grueling initial deciphering at lightning speed, laying down a flawed but highly useful baseline text. From there, the true experts step in to navigate the lacunae, verify the linguistic nuances, correct the digital hallucinations, and extract the authentic history from the clay. The reality of Sumerian administrative records. People scouring the internet for hidden history are constantly fed a diet of dark, mysterious logs detailing human disposal, systematic breeding programs, and strict classifications of alien slave labor. The viral videos claim that the chilling, deeply objective tone of these translated texts reveals a highly calculated system of control managed by ancient extraterrestrial overlords. The historical reality of these sprawling archives is completely different, yet the scale of it is staggering in its own right. Quantitative analysis of the roughly 1 million recovered cuneiform tablets reveals a truth that is aggressively mundane. Over 90% of all the documents pulled from the Mesopotamian sands are completely everyday bureaucratic and administrative records. There are no cosmic secrets hiding in the vast majority of these clay fragments. Instead, historians are looking at an endless, highly organized matrix of sheep and goat inventories, barley and emmer wheat delivery receipts, real estate deeds, worker payroll logs, and daily beer rations. The chilling, repetitive tone identified by modern digital sensationalists is not the voice of a reptilian commander. It is merely the standard formal language of ancient accountants working in dusty temple storehouses. Mesopotamian bookkeepers were intensely focused on administrative detail, recording minor transactions with a level of precision that borders on absolute obsession. If a single sheep died on the far periphery of the empire, that specific biological event was meticulously logged on a small piece of clay and filed away. This rigid structure is exactly why the artificial intelligence translation model excels at reading these specific texts. The neural network learned to recognize a highly predictable, repetitive vocabulary. It zeroed in on specific transactional terms that ancient administrators used to track assets across massive economies. The machine constantly processes the term mutum, which records the incoming delivery of agricultural goods to central hubs. It translates subati, acting as a formal receipt verifying an item was officially received from an independent party. It tracks ziga-am, logging the exact expenditure of outgoing assets and the daily rations paid to canal workers. For professional historians, the deeply repetitive and dry nature of these receipts is precisely what makes them the ultimate archaeological prize. A boastful emperor will always lie on a giant stone monument to secure his legacy. Royal inscriptions are heavily biased, politically exaggerated, and designed entirely to project invincibility to rival kingdoms. But an ancient temple accountant will never lie about a dead sheep or a missing barrel of beer. The math had to balance, or the city would starve. These formulaic receipts provide an incredibly realistic and totally unvarnished window into the actual socioeconomic structures of the ancient world. Through these dry administrative logs, modern scholars can accurately calculate ancient crop yields and reconstruct massive historical trade routes stretching across the desert. They can determine the exact purchasing power of average citizens and trace the daily lives, wages, and harsh labor conditions of ordinary Mesopotamians. Artificial intelligence is not uncovering a suppressed science fiction nightmare. It is illuminating the incredibly complex, highly organized reality of how human civilization actually learned to function, trade, and survive. The future of AI in archaeology. For over a century, the popular image of archaeology has been completely dominated by the dirt, the brush, and the incredibly slow, grueling excavation of the desert floor. Today, that romanticized picture of history is entirely obsolete. We are standing at the absolute bleeding edge of the future, where the physical tools of discovery are being rapidly replaced by massive datasets and highly advanced neural networks. The initial translation of Akkadian was simply the proving ground for a much larger digital revolution. Right now, computer scientists are deploying the open-source Academia Python package to push these digital systems even further. They are actively adapting the core neural architectures to decode other highly fragmented, exceptionally low-resource ancient languages of the Near East, specifically targeting Elamite and Hittite. By feeding thousands of digitized signs into these model ensembles, researchers have achieved up to an 89% reading accuracy. This completely removes the risk of physical damage, allowing machines to instantly read incredibly sensitive clay fragments without a human hand ever needing to touch them. Reading the text is only a fraction of the digital battle. When ancient empires violently collapsed, their vast libraries and archives were physically shattered. Today, the surviving clay fragments are scattered across dozens of different museum collections worldwide. One half of a crucial legal deed might be sitting in a glass case in London, while the other, jagged half is buried deep in a storage archive in Baghdad. To solve this logistical nightmare, researchers built something genuinely mind-bending called the Virtual Cuneiform Tablet Reconstruction Project. Instead of flying historians across the globe to physically test if two fragile, broken pieces fit together, this system uses advanced 3D scanning and highly complex geometric algorithms. It takes three-dimensional scans of fragmented artifacts and virtually matches the broken edges in cyberspace. The system is autonomously solving a massive, three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle across international borders, flawlessly rebuilding the libraries of antiquity in a digital space. Artificial intelligence is also learning to see the human beings behind the clay. A revolutionary digital tool called the Paleographicum is currently deploying convolutional neural networks to analyze the specific, microscopic handwriting styles of ancient cuneiform wedge incisions. Every ancient scribe held their stylus differently and applied a totally unique pressure to the wet clay. Because of this, the computer system can track stylistic evolution and identify the exact individual scribe who authored a document thousands of years ago. It is reconstructing lost administrative networks and personal careers with unprecedented speed, effectively mapping the daily lives of people who have been dead for 5 millennia. This immense computational power is no longer locked away behind the closed doors of elite university laboratories. To completely democratize this technology, researchers built a platform known as the Babylon Engine. This accessible public web portal provides a direct user interface where students, independent researchers, and interested laypeople can simply upload basic photos, 3D scans, or Unicode glyphs of cuneiform inscriptions and receive instantaneous English translations on demand. The implications of these combined technologies are entirely staggering. We have reached a point where the ultimate bottleneck of ancient translation has finally been shattered by artificial intelligence. We are no longer just digging up the past, we are actively downloading it.